cut off your horses from among you, and will destroy your chariots. And I will cut off the cities of your land, and throw down all your strongholds. And I will cut off sorceries from your hand, and you shall have no more tellers of fortunes. And I will cut off your carved images and your pillars from among you, and you shall bow down no more to the work of your hands. And I will root out your Asherah images from among you, and destroy your cities. In anger and wrath, I will execute vengeance on the nations that did not obey. I think you can see how that builds into an us versus them. When Messiah comes, that's good for Israel. Herod's done, Rome's done, everybody's done. We're coming home. So now that news is being presented by the wrong people. And it's being rejected by the wrong people. It's being overlooked by the wrong people. It's being despised by the wrong people. And as you read through the Gospels, when you get to the end of, say, Matthew's Gospel, and the disciples are walking with Jesus out of the temple grounds. We talked about this a few months ago now. And then, wow, look at these buildings. These are amazing buildings. The temple grounds, fantastic place. Jesus, what do you think of these things? Jesus looks and says, I tell you, not one of these is going to be left on another. You're the Messiah, right? That's good for Israel, right? But you're speaking in language that reminds us of Ezekiel or Isaiah or the history books that talk about God giving over his people to their enemies again in order to be destroyed and trampled down, which often included the destruction of the temple. And if we have ears, to hear this, we have to remember that first of all, and what Matthew is doing is that the Messiah is not the sole property of Israel. In fact, if they don't respond properly to the Messiah, they will find themselves on the outside of things. Remember last week we looked at the stories of Simeon and Anna. And Simeon says something after he gives thanks to God for the baby. This is what I was waiting for all these days, all these years. God promised me, the Spirit promised me, that I would not die before I had seen his anointed. And then he speaks to Mary specifically and says, this baby will divide people of Israel. Or in other words, as Paul puts it in Romans, this child, this Messiah, is going to show that not all who are Israel are Israel. Because they did not receive the Son. They did not seek him. So in a sense, Matthew is writing a warning here to the Jews not to presume on your racial heritage or your national identity. He is saying instead, what do you do with the Son? Do you receive him or not? That's the big question throughout the Gospels. It continues to be an issue, Acts and beyond, doesn't it? Who could be in the church? Jews who are confessing Christ, or anybody who confesses Christ. Because we have this heritage. We have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, we have Moses, we have the law, we have the tabernacle, the temple, the promises, the Messiah. That's all our heritage, not theirs. So in order to be a part of our church, you have to become like us. And the big debate in Acts 15 is that true or not? Remember what Peter says? Look, I went to Cornelius' house. He's a Roman centurion. You might have heard of him. Not a Jew. And I preached the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. He received a spoken tongues like on Pentecost. You know when all of Jesus' followers, the Jews, were speaking in tongues? He did that. He didn't have a chance to become a Jew yet. So I'm thinking God's doing something here. Like, this was never our religion. This was never our hope only. God had much broader intentions